Haha, I forgot to turn the volume back on last. So, let's quickly go through what I've done. And then we will check out the gameplay. So I just tried to rub my eyes with my glasses on and poked my glasses, and now I have a nice fat old fingerprint right where I need to see. The joys of having bad eyes, eh? Okay. Onward and forward. So, I have decided to stick with the Herald. I did make a slight adjustment, and so I can only have 2 auras going at one time because I don't have enough mana. Because what I believe happens is that it takes so much of your mana away from you, right? So it doesn't matter what your maximum mana is. It will take away. So when I add Malevolence, it takes away 50% of my mana reserves. Now, when I add the Herald, what's left of that 50% is now, I think, like 25% of that is gone, or whatever the case may be. So you don't have enough for 3 auras. You'll only have enough for 2 auras, unless there's some sneaky way of getting one in, which I haven't figured out yet. 2 auras is what we got going on. So poison and basically more poison damage. But anyways, so what we've done with the Herald is that it grants 20% chance to poison on hit. So what I'm hoping is that this support gem adds 60% to that 20%. That's really what I'm hoping for this. And then the other 2 are just added yummies. And then Contagion is just, Contagion kind of fits in here. At the same time, this is a nice unexpected spot for Contagion to sit. And the reason for that is because Contagion has a chance to poison. So if we come to the skills, and you can see down at the bottom, it says chance to poison 60%. Right? So I didn't have enough room for Contagion anywhere after I had shuffled everything around and kind of duct taped it back together, and this is where Contagion kind of sat. But it's nice because at the same time, this poison support also helps strengthen Contagion. Now, Contagion's not really a heavy hitter in my eyes. The 2 curses that I use are heavy hitters at this point. The Contagion and the Essence are just something that I throw on top of that now. Moving on to the ring. I have the ring. I have this particular ring on because of the strength and the dexterity. Not so much the rarity. More so that I've needed, because I've taken another ring away. I took the other magic find away, and I added. So my characters create fire damage as well as chaos damage. So the 3 spectra that I'm going to pull up are going to create fire damage for me. And the skill that they've put in. So this is a passive skill, that it's a passive damage skill that has been put in to the build for some reason. So it produces basically a circle of fire, and you'll see that. So what I've done with the fire is I've kind of kicked it up a bit. So I want enemies to burn slower so that they're on fire for longer, so that I can continue to cause 34% more damage against ignited enemies. So I have two things that are catching things on fire. My NPCs that are playing with me, and not so much this passive damage skill, but yes, it still kind of does the trick a little bit. So, so that's why I've had to put this ring on. So I used to have a socket in here and just kind of like level things and maybe sell them or use them in a later date. But I took that ability out because I needed the strength and the dexterity. Coming to the minions, so I have raised zombie and I have summoned phantom support. So every time my zombies make a killing blow, they will summon. They will summon a phantom. I don't know how many I can have. I don't know how many I can have. I can have quite a few of them though, which is awesome. So I don't need. So if I'm actively using the horde to fight, my horde will get bigger without me doing anything. I won't have to push any buttons, which is nice. So, and then on top of the zombie and phantom, we have decay support. So every time a zombie or a phantom hits something, it does 796 chaos damage for 8 seconds. And then minion support damage. So basically, the two summons are 46% more stronger. Now, I was talking about gems yesterday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to save up enough currency to buy a good gem with better quality. So you can see how the quality of this gem is number 1%. It's a waste to try and buy gem cutting currency to upgrade this all the way to 20. What you would want to do is find a higher quality gem, say like a, depending on what you can afford, even a quality 10 would be better than a quality 0 or quality 0. So get a higher quality gem and then spill in the gem cuttings to maximize that gem. Don't try and level them from 0. Like this summon support, I'll go out and I'll find like a level 15 or a 20, depending on how hard you want to grind for the gear, right? And depending on what you want to do in the meantime. Moving on. So I've decided to add skeletons to the mix, but I'm only going to use the corrupted version of the skeletons. So that's the second skill below. Now the reason for that is because I only have to push one button to get all of those skeletons. Right? So if I just want to pop up a skeleton and use the normal skeleton summoning skills, I'm only going to get 2. But that leaves me vulnerable and makes me stand still while I summon the skeletons. And they're so fragile that when I summon 2 or 4 of them, they're still useless. But if I summon a whole pack of skeletons, they become quite a bit of a foe. And then on top of that, all of those skeletons that I've now brought to life, now inflict chaos damage. Now there is a skill which will allow me to create more chaos damage with my skeletons, which I've not added into the build yet, because again, I have sacrificed a socket to give myself more dexterity and strength. So once I find a better piece to the puzzle to get back in here, I can then make my skeletons that much more stronger. So when I roll my fingers from square to triangle, when I pop off my Bane and my Contagion, I can then push L2 and I can roll. See, I have my Val skeletons on square and I have my regular skeletons on triangle. I will take off my regular skeletons and I will put the skill on there, which gives me added chaos damage to my skeletons. So I'll basically roll my 2 fingers here and then push R2 and I'll roll my 2 fingers again. Now you have to remember that Val is recharged by killing things. So you're only going to be able to summon your massive group of skeletons after you've killed a bunch of things. And you'll see it kind of work its way up like a clock. So we'll get there. We'll get there. We haven't gotten there yet, but we'll get there. Shua. So just simple. Malevolence is one of the auras that I have around me. And again, that's just an amplification. That's an amplification that I always have on. Now, I haven't done anything special with it. It's just stuffed into the corner. I have traded up my Magic Find so that I could put this on. So the Magic Find necklace had to all attributes on it, and I took it away, and that's why I needed the ring. So I could make myself less strong. Well, it depends, right? This is a passive skill that I don't have to do anything for. So just by playing, I make myself stronger. So the less buttons I have to push, the more comfortable I'm going to be while I'm playing the game. So I could put the Magic Find / attributes back onto my neck and then give myself my skeleton skill to buff them with chaos. But I'm not, I don't need it, right? Like, I can erase everything just by looking at it. So do I really need the skeletons that I've never really used before, that I just added to the puzzle, and now do I really need to make them stronger? Not yet. So, and we'll talk about why I do those particular things in a minute, because I was rambling through like a 6-hour thread the other day, and people are not going to find this information. So if I put it at the very beginning, at least then you can find it. So to the necklace, I'm basically poisoning everything all of the time. So I'm hoping throughout my actions, I'm going to at least gain 5 or 3. I'd be okay with 3% poison duration per charge. I'm fine with that. It just kind of makes things that much greasier. I've tagged you. As soon as I tag you, you're cooked. The reason I have this on was, again, because I'm now burning things. Let's go into this quick. So Wither is a multiplier of chaos, which I have chosen to stick with. So I was using 2 multipliers. The other multiplier that I was using was just for minion attack. So it was a spirit. It was like a spirit something or other. So it would modify the damage of only my minions, whereas the Wither multiplies the damage of anything. Now, the reason I don't use Blight is because I don't want to get that close to people unless I choose to. And then you have to remember, Blight might be stronger than Wither. I'm not sure of the multipliers. I think Blight is multiplied by 20, whereas this is multiplied by 15. But then you'd have to, like, there's some numbers you'd have to look into. But Blight for me, I'm not a tank, so I'm not going to stand there and let you pound on my face. So Wither gives me that distance which I need to multiply. Yeah, and I've taken the spirit buff off. I don't even use it anymore. So to the Bane, the added chaos support, the despair, and the efficiency support. So I did a little bit of Googling. You cannot have the same gem socketed to a skill twice. So if I have two decay supports, I cannot put them both in to make my golem stronger. I can only use one of them. So what I've done here, and you have to also remember that Bane and Despair do not hit when you spellcast. They're not. So my Essence Drain, so when I shoot something with my Essence Drain, with like an arrow or a bolt or a spell, and it flies through the air and I smack you with it, that is a hit. So, or a zombie. Like if a zombie eats your face, that is a hit, right? Curses are not hits, but you can buff your curses with things like damage support, or get back there, or efficiency support. Efficacy, whatever. It's early. So what I've done is Bane also applies a second curse when I use it. But you're only going to get that skill. You're only going to get that perk from that skill if you have something that is going to let you curse a second time. Right? If you do not have this skill or something of the same manner that gives you the ability to add more than one curse to one person, you are, no matter how many curses you attach to Bane, you're only ever going to lay down Bane. So there may be, so I'm doing some research into maybe, hopefully, besides temporal chains, right? And so these gloves, I'm not sure. See, so these gloves give me a curse of level 10 temporal chains. Now, temporal chains is not really that big of a deal, but at the same time, it kind of is, because I'm really fast, and everything that you hit with temporal chains gets super slow. And I think super slow in all regards. I think we're talking movement speed and attack speed. We can find that out real quick. I have one for sale. Where art thou? Temporal chains. So 40% reduced effect of curse against players, which is something we're not necessarily interested in. Curse normal and magic enemies have 25% less action speed than other. Okay, so when you say action speed, I'm going to say that you're suggesting that is every action, not a hit or a walk, but both, right? Action speed. That's your actions, what you do. So I'm going to say that that's everything. So back to it. This pair of gloves may give me a third curse without actually having the ability to add a third curse. I don't know. These gloves may be absolutely useless right now. I don't know. I'll have to do some Googling and find out. I'm assuming that I'm throwing temporal chains on there and I'm slowing everything down. So that's my assumption. But back to it. So, Bane and Despair are being supported by 6% extra chaos, and they also do added chaos. And then on top of it, they are supported by doing 19% more for spell and 23% over time. Plus the 15 extra duration. That's kind of nice, but at the same time, I don't really need it. So I've made it so that when I run and I do my speed runs, I only have to push one button. So when I'm jogging, when I'm ripping through, I'm only ever pushing. Well, I mean, I gotta eat a speed potion, right? But I'm only ever really pushing one button to kill everything. There may be a time where I push Bane, and then I push Contagion, and then I might throw in an Essence. Either that or I'll just push Essence, and Essence will throw out a fireball, give me my Herald, and the Herald will spit out darts of poison, and whenever I do one thing, I'm always doing multiple things, or at least I'm trying to. I kept the belt. I kept the belt for obvious reasons, because I need a shield. So this is kind of the best thing that I found. Now I found this in the Labyrinth, and we'll get to why I'm not running in the Labyrinth right now. But you can find some gear in the Labyrinth. Now, I do suggest that you try and tough out the Labyrinth and get some of this tasty gear, right? Because other than that, I wouldn't have been able to afford to find any of this stuff. I would say that quite a bit of the gear that I find happens on the speed runs, but that's because I'm now doing the speed runs more than I'm doing the Labyrinth. So am I really? I don't know. But again, specific pieces, I found 2 of the exact same belt. So your odds of finding something similar are pretty good. So if this is what you're looking for, this is where you'll find it. The reason I have these boots are because I now ignite things. So going back to the Spectra. So the Spectra that I now raise cause fire damage. It's almost like they have a fire aura, and then they cause fire damage on hit. So things are on fire. So everything that I'm doing with chaos is now increased by 34% just because I've ignited things on fire. And then the ring kind of plays into that too, right? Because I want things to burn slower. So looking at the skills that I have in here, kind of duct taped. My Essence Drain is no longer my heavy hitter. My Essence Drain does have a little bit of supported damage to it, because remember, it is a hit. So I can add 700 extra damage to it. I could get it to the point where I could get these all linked up, and Spectra and Essence would have these 2 support skills attached to both of them. But we're not there yet. We're getting there. Still new, but we're getting there. So I'm showing you that you can duct tape things together and still win the game. Now, quick digression. These setups work when you're at a very low level as well, right? You will basically get the same effect as what I'm doing here as you play through and you play the story and you get comfortable with your character. Raise Spectra. Now my Spectra also do added chaos. So the fire Spectra that I'm telling you that lay down the aura and do the fire damage hits, on top of all of that, they are now doing chaos damage for me as well. So it's just it's another little tidbit that's adding chaos that I can multiply. Okay, so kind of hodgepodge together. I would like another efficacy. I would like another efficacy support. So 19% more spell damage, 23% more damage over time, and increased skill duration. Now, the reason I would love to have this particular gem with my golem is because this golem does area of effect. So it will shoot out a whole bunch of spikes at the same time and hit everything. On top of it, it also has a curse / aura that does, or an aura that acts like a curse that does damage over time. So it basically puts an aura around itself, and anything that gets close enough does damage over time. What else is it doing? And I think it just sits there and punches things. So on top of it punching things, it will also get... oh, I do have it. I do have it on there. Haha, sweet. Sorry, I'm having a slight burnout moment, getting excited. So, you know what I would do? Depending on the shield. I don't really know how this works. I'm assuming when it has low shield and it's gaining shield or leeching shield, the Chaos Golem is doing 37% more damage. And now that depends on how much the shield actually fluctuates. Because I've taken elemental support away from all of my NPCs or my mob, things happen a bit quicker. So shield reduction and health loss are faster because of that. So this might play into it, because again, remember, I can't have two of the same gems. So I'm kind of cheating by putting this in there and hoping that it works. What else we got going on? Okay, so I did have a speed potion that had that would take bleed off of me, and I would be immune to bleed, but I was only running for half the time. I was running for less than half the time now that this is a quality 8. The boots also give me 25% movement speed, which is kind of nice, not necessarily needed, but it does speed things up when you're doing the speed runs. I have chosen. I need a new potion. I need something better than this last one. I want a nice fat potion that's just gonna give me something real greasy over time. The first two are my butt pucker moments. So when I'm in a fight and I see everything just disappear, I can hit L1 like 6 times. Basically, I hit L1 like 6 times, or no, sorry. 3, yeah, okay, so I get 3 charges out of this, and I get 3 charges out of this, yes. So I hit L1 like 6 times, and I can get instant health 6 times, right? But then I want something, but sometimes I'll eat up those 6 shots, and then you'll see my life just poo, and you're like, frig. So to have something big, fat, and juicy that kind of gives you that last little to combat that over time, especially with a glass cannon, right? Because you'll note that this character only had, I got a little bit more life now. I was running with 100 less life. How's my shield? My shield has kind of stayed the same. So this is what I'm running with in total. Now, the reason I kind of went glass cannon is because people were complaining that they had like 5,000 health plus whatever else they were using for a shield, and they were getting 1 shot. So if you're like, basically this game has such a vastness to it that that you can have things like the stars basically align for the NPCs that you're fighting that make them so friggin' greasy that they just sneeze and you're dead, right? And it doesn't really matter who you're fighting. And that's why hardcore characters are particularly tough with this particular game, because the tree is absolutely massive, right? So coming to the tree real quick, you can look over the things that are highlighted here. I'm going to go over quickly the gems that I'm going to be investing in. So I'm going to invest in this. I've invested in this over here. Now this is a purely chaotic build, just damage and a bit of mana. I probably should have thrown into life, but c'est la vie, whatever. Right? If the 5,000s are getting one hit, who really cares? So that's this. I probably found these two particular gems in the labyrinth. There's no way I'd be able to afford them on the market unless somebody was stupid enough to give them to me for the pennies that I usually play with. Again, same gem or jewel. There is a jewel over here. Now, I don't do elemental damage. Well, I kind of do elemental damage with that firebolt, but at the same time, this is going to be a wasted skill, but I'm going to get an extra gem slot, right? Because I'm only level 78. So, extra gem slot, beautiful. I will not be investing in spiritual aid because I myself do not have any health. So minion damage also affects you. We do not want that whatsoever. I will, however, be investing in the minion damage / accuracy. So everything on this skill tree except for the last thing. I do not want to share the damage with my creatures. Now, if you'll note, I keep talking about having to switch things, and this is why I have a bunch of gear. Never just throw away gear or sell it. Like, if you think it might have a value to yourself or to another character that you're going to create, try and keep it. So coming back to why I duct tape things, it's because I don't have extra strength, right? Because I'm playing a puzzle with my gear. So there is a gem, there's a jewel spot here, and there is a jewel spot here. Now, there are some auras that I'd like to play with. There might be some other gem spots somewhere. I think those are the only two that I really want to get to, besides these two, or besides this one over here. You know, I'm gonna wait because I could do the same thing here too, right? So it depends. Do I want dexterity or do I want strength? Or do I want to go for one strength and one dexterity, right? So it all becomes kind of interesting. So this is strictly minions, chaos, a tad of aura, but mostly minion and chaos. And then that mixes in together because my minions do chaos, right? So everything's kind of like a big dirty loop. I've taken a lot of magic find off. This character can successfully run with over 150% magic find on it, and I can still cook everything just by looking at it. I am that much stronger with this particular build, which allows me to stay alive a little bit longer so I can collect some XP. And I'll talk about why I'm doing that right now. So increased items is now down to 24%, and that's probably because of this ring. I've taken it all off. So You might be asking, why would I like to grind out in the ravaged square in Act 10? Well, the reason for that, well, instead of in the labyrinth, right? So in the labyrinth, I can successfully gain levels because you can basically, well, and you can do it without giving anything, like it doesn't cost anything in the lower tiers. So I believe in the upper tiers you're going to have to use a type of currency to get into the labyrinth. But for now, even at my level and gaining levels in the labyrinth, I don't need currency to get in. But when I'm in the labyrinth, I'm only getting goodies, right? I'm only getting currencies. I'm only getting gear. But do I need that right now? No. What I'd like is see, these are the guys that do the auras. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, tasty. What I'd like to do is I'm in here so that I can find sulfur, right? I don't find sulfur in the labyrinth. So by doing the runs in the regular area, I'm going to find sulfur. I'm going to find, there's a little list. It's like sulfur. There are mini labyrinths with like little treasure rooms in them. You can find corrupted gems in the Val crypts. You can find currency, and you get a little bit of XP. I mean, the XP. Don't let the fact that your XP bar is not flying and you're not eating those bricks up quick, right? Don't let that discourage you. That's not what this process is about. This process is about basically finding sulfur so that you can get deeper into the mines. So you're going to have to, now I don't know if the maps that drop on the ground have the capability of finding sulfur. You may, I don't know, like you can find rare maps that have different things said about them on, it's kind of like looking at an item and seeing what that item is about, right? So some maps actually have that. Whether or not the map is actually going to give me a good amount of XP is regardless of that fact. It would be interesting to find out whether or not I can obtain sulfur in the maps. Because then what I would do is I would take the calligraphy pens or the calligraphy currency that I'm finding, and I would try and upgrade those maps so that I could specifically find sulfur. But at this point in time, I'm just hoping, so I'll usually run the course of a whole map, and if I find a sulfur in there, I know there's 2 more, right? So I'll finish that whole map up. But if I rip through 2/3 or two, like if I rip through 2/3 of a map and I die, I'm not going all the way back to the end to pick up whatever's there, right? Unless it's an orange or something super tasty that I've missed, I'm not going back for that. There's no point in me wasting my time running through to get a couple yellows. It's not really worth it. You also should take note that when you pick up gear, certain gear gives you certain currency. So when I'm running through Act 10, I am picking up gear that has all 3 colored sockets on it. And the reason for that is because you get chromatics from it. I'm also picking up things that have maximum amount of sockets in it, because those will give you, what are they called? To change your sockets, to change the amount of sockets that you have. They'll give you 7. They'll give you 7. Oop, I don't know what happened there. Whatever. They'll give you 7. They'll give you 7 of the currency to actually change. Yeah. to change the amount of sockets that you have. What's going on here? Let me dump some of this stuff away before I forget. So I can actively gain chromatics. So here's a prime example. This right here should give me a chromatic, right? It doesn't matter if it's white. It doesn't matter if it's yellow. As long as it's not like super trash. If you bring home a super piece of trash, it won't give you a chromatic. You have to bring home something that's I believe it has to have a green line around the box. You have a green line around the name, you pick it up and it'll give you a chromatic. Yeah. So you can collect chromatics, and chromatics are, so you see I've got a bunch of currency in here. I was trying to haggle with somebody. Successfully, I might add. I managed to score what I needed for dirt cheap, which was awesome. It may not have been the best, but it was still pretty decent. It helped me put the puzzle together to know whether or not it was going to work, right? Invest in something small, and then if it slays, like upgrade the quality of that stuff, right? Like upgrade your quality. I should upgrade the quality of these boots so I have better, right? So upgrading the quality of my boots will give me a better energy shield. Is what I'm interested in. Or it should. Or yeah, okay, yeah. You give me 1. 2. 3. Cool. Cool beans. So, a little bit of energy shield, a little bit of armor. It's still not going to help me with those one-shot kills that I often receive. Oh, I'm not going to say often. They happen though. But still, it'll help me in a sticky situation. So yeah, so you can take something like this, for example. And if you were to give that here, I don't need it. And I could honestly use them. So that's what you're going to get. You bring home 6 sockets, that's what you're going to get. Right? And you can use, so if somebody's not going to buy those from me, I'm going to take it and I'll turn it into currency. And look at that, right? I come home with a stack of maxed sockets, and look at how much currency you can snag, right? So if you're going to do some hunting, do a little bit of Googling to find out, because there's probably more. There's probably more that I'm not telling you, and it's not for the fact. Here's the skill that gives my skeletons tasty chaos damage. I have this, which I'm trying to work on, and I also have this. Now this does not help me right now because I don't need it. Let me grab some stuff and and then I will showcase. Stop it. Get some help. I hate the buttons. I hate what they've done with these buttons. It's so annoying. Okay. Yeah. Next time there's something that drops with a white line, a white line around the name, I'm going to pick it up and see if it gives me any specific currency. Because this literally just dawned on me. Like I had a whole bunch of gear with 3 different colored sockets in it, and they happened to be like, I think they were pretty well beside each other, and I put them down to sell, and I don't know. It was like there is no spoon moment. You know what I mean? So that was kind of cool. That was kind of cool. So that greatly increases the amount of currency that I'm getting from a run, right? So I'm not just picking up the things that I find off the ground, but and I'm not just making nickels and pennies anymore, bringing home because when you bring home a yellow, you're only going to make nickels off of it, right? Unless it has one of those specific traits, or you can potentially sell it to an actual person because it's got some nice skills on it. So, let's let me clean my glasses here real quick. So let's I think I have everything set up and ready to go. I played with this setup last night before I went to bed, and it seems to do really well. So I'm gonna mic out, get some tunes going, and we'll start. Oh Jesus, Lord have mercy! Turn that down. All right. Let me get set up and then let's smash.
I need more mana.
settings.
You know, just a thought. I am constantly getting targeted, which means, I mean, I obviously pull aggro over my NPCs. But at the same time, I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. Is there a golem that taunts NPCs? That might be a stone golem. I'll have to look into it. I think I have a stone golem kicking around. So here's my thought. When I was in the mines, I was running for Azurite because I'm still new to the game and I want to boost my base skills for my minecart. So when I get deeper, it's easier for me to play. And I was at like level 45 or 50 or something like that. I was easily 10 levels below myself. Easily. I think I was like 20 levels below myself. And it is basically like they had put an end boss. Like smack dab, like it wasn't smack dab, it was basically the end of the run. But, you know, like, I mean smack dab as in like how far down the mine can I go? And I'm basically grinding at low to maybe medium level, and you've put an end boss, basically an act 10 boss where I'm grinding. So I'm thinking maybe I give up on the golem and the damage that it does so that I can find something that will taunt. I don't want to use a totem. I don't want to be responsible for the taunt. That's one less thing for me to think about, right? If I can get an NPC to do it for me, yes please. So, and then I'm never targeted, right? Because I'm super squishy. So just a thought. Just a thought. Anyways, I'm gonna mic off and slam some music. I know it may sound slightly Captain Obvious, but I don't fight the end bosses unless my XP, in this case, lines up with it. So if I zero out my XP, then I'll fight the bosses. Because with this character in particular, I can beat the boss without dying. I maybe have like a 1 in 10, 1 out of 20 chance. You know, I haven't really calculated it, but it seems to be around those odds of me beating the end boss without dying, or any boss without dying, for that matter. Because the arenas tend to be very small, and you constantly have to be moving, otherwise you're targeted and you're dead, at least in my case. I don't know about your case, but I can still mash up a boss, right? I can shred a boss, and I can shred the end boss, and I'll do it after this brick. But I think it's like schwa. Well, minus the things that you actually have to watch. Less than 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Yeah, maybe 5 minutes. Depending on how many times I die. Well, yeah, not even 5 minutes really. It's probably like 6-7 minutes in total with what you have to watch. Or are forced to watch. So I should start selling some of these scrolls too. I don't know how many scrolls people actually pick up, or if they're actually used for anything. You'll note that I stopped using my scrolls, and because it's gotten to a point where I'm quite content with my setup. I could probably, like, if I can find an orange set that does this type of poison damage or better, then I'll go with that. But I mean, 11% over time multiplier, 20% chance to hit on poison, 21% increased damage with poison, and poison is chaos, right? Same thing with this. So the weapons aren't used. The weapons are used for the skills or for the perks, not for the physical damage, right? I still get that 35% increased damage with poison. Is that on a physical hit? It doesn't say physical, right? It doesn't say on hit, right? Chance to poison on hit. Now, that could be taken as a chance to poison on hit with what, though? Are you suggesting that that's with a dagger? Or is that in general? I mean, the build seems to work, right? So, and even if that's not the case, increased damage with poison is, and a multiplier I'm more than happy with, right? If I'll find another multiplier, I'll put the multiplier in on this one. This is just something that I found that led me to this path in the first place. So, I don't know. Half of these skills may not be worth it, but at least the one skill at the very bottom is worth it. 35% increase to all poison, which is chaos, and then all of the multipliers of chaos that I have. So it's kind of like, yay. I don't know. I'm hoping that's the way it works. So, yeah. Anyways, this is kind of the grind. I think I'm gonna rip this last brick, and then my maps aren't selling, and I don't know. See, here's the thing with selling. I could easily find out how much a map is worth just because I mean, if you look at the selling points. I know this is going to get a little boring. Maybe what I'll do is we'll do a little bit of this. Okay. So when it comes to selling, or buying, I think in my case, what what's where do I start? Where's the best place to start for buying and selling? Usually, I mean, if you look, don't gauge the extremes of what people are asking for. You could easily find out what a product's average price is by what people are generally asking for. Now, I think a lot of the players, a lot of the elite players in this game will have come from the computer, from a PC. So they have a slight idea of what they want the currency to be based at. But given the fact that the PS4 market is small, things kind of change a little bit. Market value changes a little bit. So you'll get people that ask for stupid prices. I would ignore those people altogether and base your product on that, because I know I told you guys in another video to put a price. Yeah, to some degree it is very good to put a price on what you're asking for, because then you stand out and somebody, I think rejection as a whole is hard for people to manage, whatever the case may be, right? So, and I know this is getting a little philosophical, but at the same time, it's market predictability, because you're actually dealing with a person, right? So you have to take into consideration people, not just statistical analytics that go along with whatever the case. So I sometimes don't like to put prices on things, because I want people to give me what they think an acceptable price is for them. So you'll note that in the last purchase that was bought from me, I only asked for a certain amount, but I was given more than what I had actually asked for. And that's because somebody deems that important to themselves, right? So they're willing to give you a little bit of extra something, because they're like, oh my gosh, I found a piece to my puzzle and I would really, really like it. And and at the same time, it is hard to come across currency and to get yourself upgraded. So you'll get that on a broader spectrum if you don't put a price down, right? Because I can easily, like, if you give me a soft price, and I know that you're being a little bit of a dink, and you're trying to lowball me, it's easy enough to just go to the market and find out what people are asking. Like, it's super simple. What are you giving me? What are you giving me to offer me, right? What are you offering me? Are you offering me base? Are you offering me more? Or are you offering me an average price? And depending on how I feel, depending on, I'll bite or I won't, right? But that's only on something that I've not specified a price for. So, And that's why I say don't be afraid to lowball people either, right? Like in the same regard, don't be afraid to lowball people. When you buy things, don't be afraid to lowball. Like don't be afraid, don't be like if I can get something for and at the same time, if I'm out looking for something and I think that I'm going to have to spend like this much currency on it and it ends up being pennies rather than dollars and you're only asking for like 10 pennies, hell, I will give you 100 of my pennies. I really don't care. You've already saved me, well, not 100 of my pennies, but you get what I mean, right? Instead of hundreds of dollars, you're only asking for 10, you're only asking for 10 pennies. And instead of the hundreds of currencies that I was willing to spend, I'll give you 100 pennies type deal. Because I already have that in my sack, so I really don't care. So that's essentially what that was. But yeah, don't lowball people to the point where it's like a kick in the face. That's not gonna get you anything. That's not gonna get you anything. That's gonna get you the opposite of what you want. Right? I'm kind of, people, you see how hard, you see how, well, I mean, to some degree, depending on your build, right? Depending on how you like to play. What if you're a healer? Like, what if you decided to be a full heal? Like, do you know how hard it would be to play this game if you ultimately were just like an aura and buff kind of character? You'd need a clan to play with because you wouldn't be able to run through anything. You're not out to cause damage, you're out to help people cause damage. So at what point does it become convenient to, this was a bit of a digression, but I mean, at what point does it become, it seems like a digression, but at the same time, like, if I can't fight my way through these mobs and I'm not making currency and I'm not making, I'm not making productive, I'm not using my time productively, then I'm going to have a harder time. I'm going to have a harder time finding the currency to afford the things that I want to buy, right? So in the end, it does end up affecting the market and what you buy from the market, depending on how you've built your character. It would be interesting to see how well a tank zombie build would work. That would be interesting too, because then you could have both sides to the right, like instead of making your heart super fragile, which I have done, right? My rib cage, which is my mob, is very strong, but my heart is weak. You could potentially flip that by having like a ground and pound tank and then having just some extra DPS on the side. And you could slowly work your way. It doesn't matter how fast you work your way through, right? I mean, enjoy yourself. So, I can't remember if the banks are intertwined with your characters. So I don't know if you have access. Like, is my bank empty in my other character? That'd be easy to find out, you know. Do we share the same? It's easy to Google it, but you know, I could just log out and check it. So if they do share, then it would be easy enough to set up a grind character for currency, such as something like this, right? And then you're basically just feeding your other characters at that point. I think that would be the more. I think that would be the more. I think that would be the more efficient route. If that's what you were looking to, if you were looking to create more than one character, I would suggest that you make a character that can do speed runs like this, so that you can afford the, so that you can afford the currency for other things, unless you wanted to take a soul route and like. But here's the thing, and here's why I suggest this route. Because how many people actually play with the exalted currency? I'm not saying, like, I've done a lot of spending to get what I need, right? I've dumped hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chromatics into and there's probably a more efficient way of doing it, but at the same time, I don't have the necessary capabilities of getting myself to that point. So, I think it would be. See, it's been easy. Like, I don't know. I I think I have an okay setup. I think I have an okay setup. And again, I can run at 150% Magic Find. So I ask the question again, like, yeah, okay. I understand that you get better things from maps, and maps are probably a decent thing to be running, for like a little side hustle. But at the same time, um, how often do you die? Right? I think there are some things that you need to ask yourself to put yourself in a like put your character into its niche and work in that niche so that you can build up for something better. Um, yeah. It's been all about the magic find for me, really. Getting to this point has been all about MF. That's basically what it's been. Um, and I never bought any of my magic find pieces. And this is my main character. Like, I have one other character behind the scenes, which is an elemental. Ooh, excuse me. It happens to be a fire build. She's super deadly already. Uh, but no, this is my main. This is my main character. And I found all that MF. Like, just doing what I'm doing. And like, you know, you pick up a piece of you pick up a piece of gear and it's got some nice MF to it. And So take the time to put it into the puzzle, right? Like, I don't have exalteds to afford all this stuff. Everything basically, except for the yellows. Like, I've bartered for, like, for, for things like, for things like this. Like, I bought this from the market, right? But I was only able to afford it after the fact, right? I don't have, and I got, and there were some nicer ones that I wanted, but to no avail, right? And that's because I don't have the currency to do that yet. So this is, I mean, maps. I wouldn't rely on something to gain XP. Well, here's where I would gain XP. I would gain my XP in the labyrinth, and I would rely on runs like these to gain items that you need. You could do a little bit of running around in the labyrinth for your gear as well. But like in an economic sense, in a spending sense, like don't rely on the maps because you're not always going to have them, right? And you're like, oh, I wish I could have been gaining some whatever, some treasure. I wish I could be gaining treasure right now through my maps, but I don't have a map right now. So where do you come back to when you don't have a map? Like, I don't think I've picked up, I don't know, I've yet to really pick up a map in a labyrinth. I'd have to keep an eye on that, right? Like, um, oh, I'm starting to get patchy spots. That would be something to look into. Um, if you could double down, like it'd get to a point where you could double down on the labyrinth and maps, right? But again, it also depends on how much you die, how you built your character. Because if you've built because this character is essentially built to play with someone else. Um, I'm not meant to take any hits. So yeah, I think ultimately this is the best route because again, you get the sulfur as well. And talking about sulfur, I guess we'll dip into that a little bit. You'd have to Google what the percentage of chance that a sulfur patch would show up in a run. It'd be interesting to figure that out. And are they more susceptible to certain runs, right? Now I generally stick to Act 10 to find these things. See, look at this little bugger. Get out of here. You got like 30 things to choose from and you run at my face. Go away. Between the stages in Act 10 that I run, I commonly come across the things that I want in this particular map, more so than any other map. Now, I'm not sure if that's just a coincidence. Now, I don't run this particular, there's no favoritism involved, right? I bounce back and forth between, I, if there's any type of favoritism, I would choose the Requiem. I think it's called the Requiem because it's level 67, which is the highest mobs I can fight right now, which would be, I think that's how it works, right? The feeding trough may be 67. But I know one of them is at least 67, so I can get some half decent XP going on in there instead of fighting like level 64 and 65s. The control block is nice for the fact that it's got a boss at the end. I mean, they may all have a boss, but there's probably a reason why I've been staying away from certain areas, and I just continue to stay away from them because they're old habits that I've had when I was a little weaker. So I should probably go back to those instances and see, now that I'm stronger, if I'm better attuned to the situation. Because I've taken off all the magic find. So, and the reason that I've taken off the magic find is because it makes me less squishy. It gives me better stats. Gives me better things. Makes me stronger. So things are less likely to hit me. You know, I usually die when if I'm fighting mobs like this, I usually die because something has been activated upon something's death and I'm standing in the middle of it. That's usually what happens. These flying monster bats, these Schwarzenegger bats, these guys right here, these big beefy bat guys, yeah. If I get a double hit, that plus a pounce, I could potentially see death, but it'd have to come from a gold. It'd have to come from like a super elite. Yeah. But when I had MF on, those regular guys were kind of a pain. Like it was, and now they're not so much, right? That was half shield. So I've changed a few things around. I don't know. I don't know what else to ramble about at this point. Unfortunately, you know, if you wanna do maps, this is the best way that I know to obtain them. You probably want some better MF on, but I want to gain some levels. Now, well, I want to gain some levels on top of the other things that I'm doing. So, yeah. I'm going to mic off for now until I find something else to ramble about. Yeah, enjoy, I suppose.